Shalom, shalom. It's your brother Ja. Coming at you again with another video. And I was upset because I was uploading this video and at 95% it just stopped uploading. So, praise Yah. Hopefully I can duplicate the same energy and efficiency I had on the first one. But it all works out for the best. So let's get back into it. This is the two mountains. This is episode 2. And in episode 2, it's regarding the mountain Ebal, right? Or Ebal or Ebal, which sounds like eyeball. But maybe y'all could see something into that, right? So this is the mountain of the curse based on Deuteronomy 27:13, right? And we're going to just break down the word eyeball according to the Yahweh Diyath letters. That is, right, the eye, which can mean in the deep form, watch, know, to watch, to know, and for shade, right? We got the Yod, of course, which can mean to work, to thorough, or to worship. We've got the Ba, which can represent family, a house, or inn. And we have the Lamed, which can represent to teach, a yoke, or to bind. Yeah, in other words, to bind. So according to Stones, I think that's where I got this from. Ebal represents a stone or a bare mountain with no foliage, etc., etc. So, because we know a stone does not have foliage on it unless it has moss, but that's a different type of foliage. So according to our cousin language, Arabic, in Arabic, a lot of things are related to Allah. So these letters in relation to Allah, so to speak, is lofty, chief, he who remains, and benevolent. Those are equivalents to the powers behind those Arabic letters, which is, of course, Shemitic or Shemantic or Shemitic or Shemantic of the shamans, right? So here we go. And the simple breakdown to Ebal is an eye, represent sight, hand, represent an eye, or represent me, or representing person, the person, and house and inn, and also teach, learn, and flame or fire, right? Similar to the way fire, if put forth to metal in a hot or in a hot degree, will melt the metal and bind it. So this mountain here represents the curse. Let's get to the verse. And it goes, this is from Genesis. Actually, my bad. The verse is in Deuteronomy. Let's go 27:13. Salat. Right hand. Goes. All right. So 27:13. And these shall stand for the curse on Mount Ebal or Ebal. Reuben, Gad, Asher, Zebulun, Dan, and Naphtali. So those are the ones that are standing on Mount Ebal for the curses. And let's get into these particulars why. And on the video that I couldn't upload, I was speaking about how that's a good way for people who always are questioning, those who wake up to being Yasharal, always questioning, hey man, what tribe am I? Well, the way that you find out what tribe you are, because obviously Yahweh is not a respecter of people in the sense to where he's going to put one type or one person above somebody just to be above them. Now, everyone will have their own characteristics and their way to go about representing Yahweh or Elohim in Yasharal. So always remember that Yahweh is Elohim, right? And Yasharal, as princes, so to speak, or inheritors of things from the Father, have their own characteristics as like little Elohim or like junior Elohims, if you will. All praises to Yahweh. So a good way to find out the characteristics of these tribes is to look up their blessings. Now, there's two areas off the bat that show a group of blessings for Yasharal, and that's going to be immediately in Genesis 49, where we are, and later on in it's Exodus, in Deuteronomy 33, where Moses gives blessings, which are additions to the blessings in Genesis, and also renewals or reconstitutions of the blessings, right? So here we go. The tribes that are on the Mount of Curses, which are Reuben. And it says, Reuben, you are my firstborn, my strength and my initial vigor, foremost in rank and foremost in power, water-like impetuosity. You cannot be foremost because you mounted your father's bed. Then you desecrated him who ascended my couch. And to get further insight to what that's talking about, you can refer to Genesis 35:22, where Reuben did something to go against Yaakov, right? So we see here that some of Reuben's characteristics is he's very headstrong, right? And whenever he does something, he does it with might or with force or with authority. So if you have those kind of characteristics, then perhaps you inherently in your DNA are a Reubenite, right? Now, mind you, these aren't definitive. I'm just saying these can be used once you know how you are, when you know your nature, to see what attributes of Yasharal you have within you. So Reuben was Jacob's firstborn, his strength and his initial vigor, foremost in rank and foremost in power, and water-like impetuosity, meaning that he's impetuous, man. He's ready to do it, you know? So you cannot be foremost because of what he did. So Zebulun, who's also part of the six, Zebulun shall settle by seashores. He shall be at the ship's harbor, and his last border will reach Zidon. So Zebulun, we see here, can be a power or principality, which represents the coming and going of ideas or momentums, right? Because Zebulun shall settle by seashores. So Zebulun will be aware of travel in and out of water ports and waterways, right? And also that means that Zebulun will be spread out across Shem's territory for the most part. And we see that as Yasharal, you can expand that, and as the 12 tribes were scattered abroad, right? So that's a power that you can see. Now we look at Dan. Dan is also part of the six. Dan will avenge his people. The tribes of Israel will be united as one. Dan will be a serpent in the way, or a serpent on the highway, a viper by the path that bites a horse's heels so its rider falls backward. For your salvation do I long, O Yahweh. So here we go. So Dan, we see, is part of the curse mountain, because and to reiterate, Salakia, the curse mountain is symbolic of the powers that are involved with that certain mountain, and also involved with the implementation of curses. Because what are curses, right? Especially according to Yasharal, curses are upon us to teach us a lesson and to have us understand how we will lose when we try to fight Yahweh, or when we try to go against the commandments of Yahweh, the Tarawah. So these enforcements, or these powers represented by these tribes, are next to, if you will, the powers, right, that Allahim represents. Okay, so we got Gad, and it says, Dan. So Dan will be a serpent on the highway, a viper by the path that bites a horse's heel. So we see that Dan's characteristics are, he's like a serpent. He's in the cut, and then when someone comes by, he bites them. And depending on how venomous the bite was or extreme, then the person either dies, or they get thrown backwards, or they get their momentum stopped. So this is a principality that is related to that type of action. Let's say you're just going about your life. Something happens to you in your life that doesn't necessarily throw you off track, but it slows your momentum down so that you have to reflect on what happened, right? So we see that Dan's characteristics are like that. So if you find that you're the type of person that will be doing your normal things, and a lot of people don't like you because maybe you slow their roll for them, or you make them reflect and think about things in such a way but to them it's almost like you bit them with some venom, or at first they didn't like you, but once they healed up, they realized, hey man, he was talking about something, or Yahweh was with that person. I should have paid more attention, that kind of thing. That's the kind of characteristic that Dan represents, and also will show you kind of how this mountain of curses is represented, right? And not to say that the other mountain, the blessing mountain, Garazim, as we were talking about in the Two Mountains episode 1, is totally, innocent, if you will. It's still got its powers, the other 6 tribes. But if you remember that video, if you go back to their blessings, the other 6 tribes, you could obviously see that they were more of a spiritual type of enforcement for our people. And these tribes in the mountain of cursing is more like a physical enforcement to our people, with a little bit of both in each set of tribes, right? But let's keep it going. So Gad will recruit a regiment, and it will retreat on its heel. So Gad is a pack type of tribe, right? A lot of members who, if you are the type of person with Gad characteristics in your DNA, you're more like to travel with the pack, right? And sort of like the Native Americans is a good example we can see in, according to the indigenous Americans, the way that they're settled and situated. And also, if you look at the tribes of Israel, how they were in camps surrounding the sanctuary, right? Or whenever we were in our land, we were in certain parts of the land that was divvied out to us, revolving around the city of Dawad, right? Where the temple is. So here we go. Gad will recruit a regiment, and it will retreat on its heel. So Gad will go out in a pack. They'll conquer, and they'll come back, still looking, still ready to fight. You know what I'm saying? Keep watching, and in other words, they're not slacking. They're not slacking. Even though they look like they might be retreating, they're still on their heel, so they're ready to pounce back, right? You know how, like, if you're fighting and you're on your heels rather than on your toes, you know? So let's jump into And Salakia, I'm trying to make this shorter because the last one didn't load up because it was a long video. Simple. Okay, so the simple breakdown of the I'm sorry. I apologize. I had forgot a tribe. 2 tribes. So another tribe representing that mountain is Asher. His bread will have richness, and he will provide kingly delicacies. So we see that Asher represents a wealthy nation, represents a wealthy tribe, right? Because who makes bread that tastes so good, it has so much flavor, or has bread with so much richness. Like it's like when you're around Asher, then the things they provide is very virtuous to you in your life. And once again, this is not saying that none of the other tribes have these attributes, because all the tribes have attributes within each other, of each other. And he will provide kingly delicacies. So we see from this one that Asher, if you can break it down simply, they make good food. The food that they give you, it tastes good, it's rich, real flavorful, and it stays on your mind like, man, that food was good. I want some more, or I'm too full right now to eat any more, but I'll be back. So you can see that Asher also can represent that mountain of curse, because what happens after a curse, after you make it through a curse? You think back, it's impactful. It's rich, meaning that it affects you in all areas, and it lingers. And then when you come out of it, you realize that it was for your own benefit. And also you realize that if you were to encounter a curse or be up under a curse again, or find yourself oppressed by the soul numbing of a curse, then you'll be better prepared to know that once it passes, it'll strengthen you, like we get strengthened. So Yahweh is all wise and all righteous. Don't ever forget that. Right? So Naphtali. Naphtali is a hind let loose who delivers beautiful sayings. So Naphtali's tribe represents almost like a really well orator, right? Someone who has beautiful things to say, musicians, and also are skilled in the language, and also are skilled in enriching you with the language. You listen to them, you realize they're getting across a message in a way that is great to your ears, right? You're tuned in. That's Naphtali, right? So we can see that play also in that mountain, in that we see that curses not necessarily are hollow, right? Curses can end up with blessings. So let's go now into a simple breakdown of the mountain of Ebal. It represents a camel. The first letter, I, represents a camel. The second one, Yod, could be a head. And then the third one, Ba, weapon, sword. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So camel, head, weapon, sword, hand, eye, me, or water. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that was for Garazim. My bad. Salak. So the simple breakdown for Ebal was I in sight, hand, eye, and me, house and in, teach, learn, flame. So according to the curses, it's a burning type of feeling, right? It affects our whole house. It affects you personally, and it's something for your sight, something for you to see about yourself, right? These are spiritual lessons now. So don't, you will get bored, because a lot of times spiritual lessons and lessons period are boring. People want excitement. They want to be oohed and ahhed, but they don't want to be enriched. You know, that's why we're going through curses now, so that we can enrich ourselves. Right? So that's Genesis. And Naphtali, these are the 6 tribes that are represented by the mountain Ebal, which is a stone, bare mountain with no foliage. So it's a testing, it's a trial, meditative type of mountain, right? Naphtali, a hind let loose who delivers beautiful sayings, right? Asher, his bread will have richness and he will provide kingly delicacies. Now notice all these are attributes of Yahweh, right? Gad will recruit a regiment and it will retreat on its heel. Dan will avenge his people. The tribes of Israel will be united as one. Dan will be a serpent in the way and a viper by the path. So we see also that Dan's characteristics as a principle are actually to unite Israel. So a lot of times these setbacks are only made for you to be stronger so we can be more united, you see. Zebulun shall settle by seashores. He shall be at the ship's harbor, and his last border will reach Zidon. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my strength and my initial vigor, foremost in rank and foremost in power, water-like impetuosity. So we see here that that's a blessing for Reuben, right? He is the firstborn, the strength and initial vigor, the foremost in rank and foremost in power. He represents Yaakov's rank, power, vigor, and when he changes courses, he does it with might. But we also see, because of what that tribe represented, what Reuben did in Genesis, that he was not put in a leadership role like Judah was. As you remember the first video, the first mountain video, when we talks about Judah being in a leadership role because the scepter will never depart from Judah. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Judah was blessed with all the revealing of heavenly things and insight and revelation like Joseph was. But like I said, all 12 tribes are similar or can be represented similarly by what in Asia religious doctrine or whatnot, the yin and yang. But if you really think about Asiatic, of course, you used to think about Shem and know that Yasharal are really an Asiatic people too. And that could be another video, or look on the Brother Judah's videos. He covers about the Japanese and Asiatics also. And what was that? Nas, remember, y'all might not see, Nas had a verse in one of his songs where he's like, I think he said, Asiatic, half man, half amazing. He said the black, what did he say? The Asian, Afrocentric Asian, half man, half amazing. That's what he said. So that's kind of like Afrocentric Asian, well-rooted, but knowing martial arts, right? Or the ways of expression physically, right? Spiritual expression physically, right? So that is the mountain of curses. So we see, going back, that Mount Gerizim represents a cutting off mountain, which means you'll be separated by the principles upon this mountain, right? Or and these blessings were read upon entering Canaan, right? And the tribes affiliated with the blessings mountain was Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Joseph, and Benjamin. And the tribes representing the cursed mountain, or Mount Ebal, was Reuben, Gad, Asher, Zebulun, Dan, and Naphtali. So when we look at the blessings in Deuteronomy, right? And then we go to the blessings in Genesis, then we see that there's a difference, because Jacob is blessing the 12 tribes in Genesis, but then we go to Deuteronomy, right? Yes, like, yeah. Deuteronomy 33, we see Moses' blessings, right? And so when you couple it with Moses' blessings, then you can see they're still blessed, but slightly evolved or renewed. And even one tribe is removed because it got assimilated, and many tribes were combined, right? So, and it still proves that Yasharal represents the principalities of Yahweh, who is Elohim, right? And this is the blessing that Moses, the man of God, bestowed upon the children of Israel before his death, right? So may Reuben live and not die, and may his population be included in the count, right? So that's Reuben straight off the bat. May Reuben live and not die. May his population be included in the count. So he'll be around. And this is Judah. And he said, hearken, O Yahweh, to Judah's voice, and return him to his people. May his hands fight his grievance, and may you be a helper against his enemies. So Judah is going to be a fighter, of course. He's going to be a leader, and he's going to fight, man. Any grievances he has against other nations and against enemies, he's going to fight, and Yahweh will help him. And that's just straight up. That's what Moses said. Of Levi, he said, your Tumim, your Tamiyam, and your Aryam befit your devout one. Tumim and Urim befit your devout one, whom you tested at Massah, and whom you challenged at the waters of Meribah, the one who said of his father and mother, I have not favored him. His brothers he did not give recognition, and his children he did not know. For they, the Levites, have observed your word, and your covenant they preserve. They shall teach your ordinances to Jacob, and your Torah to Israel. They shall place incense before your presence, and burnt offerings on your altar. Bless, O Yahweh, his resources, and favor the work of his hands. Smash the loins of his foes and his enemies, that they might not rise. So that's for all you out there who worshiping, phallic worshiping, sun god worshiping, self worshipers, Christ consciousness, self worshiping Luciferians, right? Levi going to smush your loins, you know what I'm saying? Kick them joints, you know what I'm saying? Have you bent over in fetal position, right? So Levi, who later on becomes Zadok, of course. So we see Benjamin. He said, may Yahweh's beloved dwell securely by him. He hovers over him all day long and rests between his shoulders, right? So we see why the tribe of Benjamin would have been a good, strong warriors to be around Dawad, right? Who is Yahweh's beloved. And because they will be good, loyal soldiers, right? And Joseph, he said, blessed by Yahweh is his hand. And I'm just going to let y'all read that. It basically expounds upon Joseph's blessing in Genesis. Zebulun and Issachar will be joined together right here. Gad, blessed is he who broadens Gad. He dwells like a lion, tearing off the arm and head. He chose the portion for himself, for that is where the lawgiver's plot is hidden. He came at the head of the nation, carrying out Yahweh's justice ordinances with Israel. So Gad's still rolling deep. You know what I mean? Dan is a lion's cub leaping forth from Bashan. So Dan is still crouched and leaping forth, a serpent in the way. Naphtali, he said, satiated with favor and filled with Yahweh's blessing, go possess the sea in the south shore. So Naphtali, once again, by the seashore, principality amongst what's coming and going. Asher, the most blessed of children is Asher. He shall be pleasing to his brothers and dip his feet in oil. So that's all blessings, man. That's all blessings. And I'll probably go back and do a video over those in particular or whatnot at some time. But I just wanted to once again reiterate that the 12 tribes of Yasharal, scattered at home and abroad, are representations of Yasharal as alahayim, as principles, as characteristics. And so for the people who wake up to who they are as Israelites, and you wonder, hey man, what tribe am I? What tribe am I? It's a good thing to try to search out from your father's side, especially the character traits of your family and how they've acted to each other, how they've acted towards each other, and maybe even the different careers that they've chosen, whether it be good or bad. And just see those characteristics, and then look at the table of blessings from Genesis and Deuteronomy, and just search it out. All praises to Yahweh for allowing all things to be in this breath. All praises to Yahweh. And Salakia, if the video is too short, but like I said, I don't have enough time on here. I got to put some more. I got to get a SD card, in other words. So thanks for tuning in. You know what I'm saying? All praises to Yahweh, who is one. Big ups to Torah Knights, Torah Keepers, spiritual and physical. And, all praises to Yahweh. Call him Yasharal. Shalom.